I've been riding motorcycles now for 45 years. In that 45 years, I've never owned a Harley Davidson. I don't own any Harley riding gear. I don't own any jackets or boots or shirts. And it's not because Harley makes a bad motorcycle. As a matter of fact, I think they make a pretty good motorcycle. It's just a matter of personal preference. But I was looking around on eBay and I happened to run across this Cobra Harley Davidson Citizens Band radio. Now when I was a kid, the Citizens Band radio had come out and was just starting to get popular. And the first CB radio we had was a little realistic 6-channel Citizens Band radio. This little radio could put out 2.5 watts, and at the time 4 watts was the maximum allowable. There were 23 channels at the time, and what you had to do is pick out the 6 channels that you wanted to receive on your radio. You'd have to go to Radio Shack and you'd have to buy a transmit and receive crystal and install them in your Citizens Band radio. Back at that time, channel 10 was the channel that the truckers preferred. Now it's 19. We eventually bought a 23-channel CB radio, and so I kind of confiscated the little 6-channel and put it down in my bedroom so I could listen to the radio. I got a car mount antenna in a piece of tin and mounted that car mount antenna onto the rain gutter of our house. I powered the CB using the 12-volt regulated power supply that you see sitting on the table there on the left-hand side. So I was able to listen to the CB radio downstairs in my room, and I could talk to people around the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, one of my friends, their parents had a base station. And so we would talk back and forth, and what I learned a little later was every time I would transmit, my voice would come over the television set that was in the living room. So when I saw this Harley Davidson CB radio on eBay, I thought I should probably pick it up. Now the model number is 29LX-HDLE, and the 29LX is a pretty popular Cobra model. The HD stands for Harley Davidson, and the LE stands for limited edition. I was looking around, and these radios are kind of hard to find at a reasonable price. Now I'm not 100% sure, but I think the only 3 differences that I can see is on the microphone here. We have a little Harley Davidson emblem. On the CB itself, we have a Harley Davidson sticker. And then right here on the CB, we have a little Harley Davidson nameplate instead of the Cobra nameplate. And I'll just quick go through some of the buttons and knobs on here. We've got the noise blanker and the automatic noise limiter button right here. You can turn one on, turn them both on, or turn them both off. We have the SRF button here. Basically, you can turn the meter into an SWR meter or a transmit meter by whichever button here is pressed. Right here we have the on-off switch and volume control. In the back there's a little barrel that you can turn to adjust your squelch. We have the dynamite button here, and that controls the power output of the microphone. We have the channel selector switch, and it's also a push button to change things in the menu. We have a RF gain. If you have real powerful stations, you can kind of tone them down a little bit by turning the RF gain. Kind of reduces the sensitivity of the radio a little bit. We have the delta tune for tuning in some off-frequency stations. And the outside barrel here is for tuning your SWR meter when you're matching your antenna to your CB. And the center knob right here is the talkback mode, and what that does is that allows you to hear your own voice through the speaker when you're transmitting. So we'll turn the unit on here. One thing I don't like is the small on-off volume switch down here. And we can see that we have the channel displayed. We have the frequency displayed. There's a clock on there. Now if you lose power to the CB, you lose your time setting on the clock. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squelch it here. I'll turn the volume down. But when we squelch it, we have a receiving little indicator coming up there telling us that we're receiving a signal. So if I had this radio with the squelch turned up and someone would talk, the word receiving would come up on the display. And if we look at the upper right hand corner there, we have a scan button there, and you can scan all the channels, all 40 channels, or you can scan 10 preset channels by pressing the button. Right below it we have the CB, weather, or PA button there. You can scan up to 10 different weather stations. You can also set it to alert you if there's a weather emergency. And then by pressing it again, you can turn on a PA, and you can use your CB as a PA. And how many people just about got a black eye because they used the PA switch? Raise your hands out there. I know you're out there. And then we have a dimming switch right here to dim the display. And on the top here, top right, we have a channel 9, 19 switch. So you can toggle back between channel 9, which we know is the emergency channel, and channel 19. So I'll just kind of quick go through the menu. I'm not going to really go into the menu in depth. If you want to set your radio up, there's a lot of good YouTube channels out there where they go through the channel setup pretty thoroughly. But I'll just quick go through it. By pressing the center button there, we go into a menu there. The first setting we have is for setting the clock. And to scroll down, you just turn the knob to the right, or if you want to go back up, of course, turn it to the left. If you want to enter one of the settings here, you just press the button again and you'll enter in and you'll be able to adjust it. So we have the set clock, we have an alarm clock, set countdown. If you're driving down the road and you want something to alert you, like say every 4 hours or something like that, so you don't fall asleep, you can use these settings here. Key your tones, weather radio alert, weather radio scan, weather auto scan, and display color. This one I will go into because it's kind of neat there. What we can do is change our colors. So we see we got blue, green, red, what I'm going to call Harley orange. So you can pick different colors depending on your preference. Of course, being as this is a Harley CB, we're going to leave it on the Harley orange. You can also set your display brightness. You can set your display brightness to change during daylight hours and to darken during nighttime hours. You can set the contrast. You can do a radio check. There's some radio, some checks on the radio that it'll do. It'll check the incoming power, your transmit power, your antenna, make sure everything's good. Just some different checks. And let's see, we will go to exit. And now if we're on a channel here and we want to get back to channel 19, first when we press it, 9 comes up, and you got to remember that's the emergency channel. And when we press it again, we have channel 19. So if you get a new CB, you're going to need to match the antenna to the CB. And to do that, you use an SWR meter, or standing wave ratio meter. Now you can buy external meters, and those are much better than the ones that come on the radio. And there is a lot of good YouTube videos that show you how to do this. But I'm just going to quickly go through it and give you kind of an idea what happens here. So the first thing I need to do is calibrate my SWR meter. And so by pressing this button here, we can see we go to the calibrate position there. Now I'm going to grab my mic, and I'm just going to press my mic, and what I want is I want this bar to go right up to the calibration point right there in the meter. So now I know my meter is calibrated. Now I can let that off, and I press the button again to get to my SWR meter, which is the top meter there. And then I press the button again, and what I'll be doing is I'll be reading the ratio output on the top there. Now the lower the ratio, the better you are, the better your antenna is matched. And so I'll just press the microphone, and we can see that I'm very low. There's 1.5, And so I'm guessing I'm almost below 1. So that's really good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this down to channel 2. And I'm going to go back to calibrate. I'm going to press my microphone. And I'm going to move my little bar right up to the calibrate position right there, the calibration marker there. And now I'm just going to press SWR again, so I'm reading in the top meter, and I'll press the mic. And we can see our SWR is very low. That is good. That means most of the power that I'm transmitting is going to get out. Now if you press your microphone talk button and you see your SWR go high, and I'm going to say 3 or above, there's a chance that you could damage your radio. The power that this radio is transmitting is not leaving the radio and going out the antenna, and you can possibly damage the electronics. So for me, 2 is my limit. I try to get an SWR below 2, and in all actuality I like to see it below 1.5. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to channel 40, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go down to calibrate. We're going to press the talk button on our microphone. We're going to adjust our bar there to match the calibration line there. And then we're going to change to the SWR meter, which is the top meter, and we're going to press the talk button on the microphone again. And we can see it's very low. So my antenna is matched to this Citizens Band radio here. So I can transmit, I can talk to people, and I don't have to worry about damaging the radio. So now let's say I'm driving down the road and I want to see what the weather's like there. I can just press the button right here. And now we're tuned into the weather frequencies here, the weather radio frequencies. Turn it up a little bit. So you can see what's happening on the weather, and if you're driving down the road and you can't hear anything there, then you just turn the button there. You can turn it to the different weather frequencies here. So you should be able to pick something up, hopefully, if you want a weather report. And then if we press our button once again, we go to the PA, and this is a setting here that can get you in trouble. You got to watch what you say. If your radio is hooked up to a speaker outside, you can actually talk through your microphone. Just be careful what you say. And then if you want to scan through the different channels here to hear if anybody's on there talking, we just press the scan button. And by pressing that the way I did with just one push there, you'll scan through all 40 channels. And so that's kind of a quick look at the Cobra 29LX HD LE Citizens Band radio, the Harley Davidson edition. Kind of cool.